Hey, this is Marc, Katz, dating coach for smart, strong, successful women and your personal trainer for love. This is the Love You podcast, where you get to learn about dating, relationships, men, sex, all that good stuff, so we could help you get into the relationship and get the love you deserve. Today's topic of conversation is an important one. It's a way to help you stop beating up on yourself. It's called "You Can't Do the Wrong Thing with the Right Guy." That's what I'm willing to assert to you. With the right kind of partner, you can't make a mistake. And I get the sense that if you're single, if you're like most of us, you've been beating yourself up quite unnecessarily for things that happened in the past, which are not necessarily your fault. They're generally more indicative of the fact that you're with the wrong guy. And listen, I wrote a whole book about it called "Why He Disappeared." It's not to say that you're blameless in every situation. That kind of validation isn't really successful advice. But when you find yourself beating yourself up for long periods of time about what you did wrong, you're sort of removing the agency of the person that you're with. Your future husband, and not to give away the punchline of why he disappeared, but your future husband doesn't break up with you. That's by definition, right? The guy who's going to be with you forever doesn't think, this isn't worth it, or I could do better, or I'm going to get out, right? The man that you are going to be with will not do that. So this is sort of an airtight definition. You can't do the wrong thing with the right guy. The right guy is going to find room for forgiveness. In any situation, 50% of my advice is going to be about what you can do better. That's what you can control is, okay, I'm going to be more self-aware, I'm going to be more self-confident, I'm going to be kinder, I'm going to be more patient, I'm going to be more understanding. There are obviously things that any person could do to improve. And then on the other side, 50% of it is him, right? It's you're changing your choice of men because you know this. You could be the perfect girlfriend. Right? And if you're the perfect girlfriend, and for all I know you were, you could be the perfect girlfriend, but if you're with a guy who is a selfish, narcissistic, commitment-phobic jerk, it doesn't matter that you're the perfect girlfriend. Right? The problem isn't you, it's your choice of men. Right? And that guy's going to make someone else really miserable one day. Right? It's not always your fault. Just the fact that you chose him and continually chose someone who wasn't good to you or patient with you over and over and over again. So there is a healthy balance that we need to strike. We don't want to put our head in the sand and pretend that you're perfect, nor do you want to beat yourself up. So it's this balance between having healthy self-esteem, right? Too healthy, right, where you think your shit doesn't stink, and self-flagellation, where you're really getting yourself down in the dumps. There is a middle path in between those two things where you can be self-aware and self-confident without taking this thing too far. And that's why I'm talking about how you can't do the wrong thing with the right guy. I've worked with enough women to know that you beat yourself up unnecessarily over things that you shouldn't. So the best example I have of this is a woman I spoke to recently on the phone. Her name is, for these purposes, her name is Charlotte. And she was really beaten up. She was reading my website for a few months, was seeing a guy, was really excited, and they were like intense dates. 12-hour dates. She'd come and hang out with him that night. She'd spend the night, wake up the next day, have brunch with him, and did this over and over and over again for 4 or 5 weeks or something like that. So it was serious as far as a 1-month relationship would go. And we'll call the guy Sam. So everything's going really swimmingly, and they're being real and authentic and vulnerable and sharing things. And again, I don't doubt for a second Charlotte's version of the story. She's very bright. She's very self-aware. I love working with people who are always looking in the mirror and saying, hey, how did I contribute to this? So she's really looking at this situation and saying, all right, so I went out with this guy Sam. Everything was going swimmingly. And then we were supposed to have plans for lunch one day. And I was texting Sam, and Sam said, like right before I was supposed to come and visit him, no, you can't come out. Something came up with friends. I talk to you later. It was just very weird and very terse. and they kind of went back and forth a couple times, and he didn't explain further. And she texted back, "Can I tell you why I'm upset?" And that just triggered him. And he got like angry in his text, and the thing spiraled out of control. And the next thing you know, he just stopped texting and literally never talked to her again. So poor Charlotte is blindsided by this. And she buys my book, Why He Disappeared, and starts to reflect on her own behavior. What did she do? Was she too aggressive in her texts? And she gets on the phone and she's calling me to be her coach, right? And she's looking for validation because she really wants to learn and not repeat her mistakes. And if you know me, you know I'm not the validation king. I will never say something unless I believe it's true. I don't just pat you on the back and say, no, sweetie, it's never your fault. So I'm not the best at giving validation. So I decided to tell her the 100% truth. Charlotte, you did absolutely nothing wrong. Right? I told her what she wanted to hear because it was true. Charlotte didn't do anything wrong. In fact, she handled the situation almost as well as it could possibly be handled. The one mistake she made, in case you're out there watching or listening, she had a serious relationship discussion by text. You should never have a serious relationship discussion by text. That was a big thing, because I really think that if Charlotte and Sam picked up the phone and talked about what was going on, this whole thing could have been avoided. But that's not the way it panned out. And so what this reveals, right, is not, again, if she's going to beat herself up, okay, mental note, never have an important discussion by text. Never, 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 never. It leaves out tone and nuance, and right, it's much more intimate to talk to someone than to sit by your phone and then wait for his response and freak out, and you just read into too much. It's bad. So that was a mistake. But that says nothing about Sam. The truth is, Sam revealed that the man she thought she was with for the first 5 weeks isn't actually the man she would have considered being in a relationship with, right? He revealed his true self by how angry he got, how he didn't explain himself, and how he decided that an uncomfortable text conversation should ruin what appeared to be 5 great weeks of dating, right? That is indicative of his communication style, his character, his dedication to her. It says so much more about him than anything. To me, that's the big takeaway for Charlotte. She needs to take her sadness, right, the thing that she's beating up on herself, and turn it into anger. I can't believe this goddamn guy who seems so promising turns out to be a guy who isn't, it's not that he's not deep or smart or funny. It's that he has a hair-triggered temper, and he's not really that sensitive to my needs. And I don't think I want to be in a relationship with a guy like that. That's the healthier way to process it. So if you spent enough time in your life beating yourself up for things you've done wrong in relationships, I really want you to be able to turn that into almost a healthy anger. Right? Stop beating yourself up, let yourself go, and realize that you can't do the wrong thing with the right guy. You beat yourself up, you deserve better, and I'm going to help you find what you're looking for. When we come back, we're going to talk about, what are we going to talk about? How you can't do the right thing with the wrong guy. Interesting premise. You can't do the right thing with the wrong guy just as well as you can't do the wrong thing with the right guy. My name is Marc Katz. This is the Love You Podcast. We'll be right back.